Hey guys, welcome back to A Matter of Life and Maiden, the podcast of the Beast. I'm Joe Labriola.
And I'm Matt Wagner.
And today we're going to talk about the 10th studio album by Iron Maiden, rightly dubbed The X Factor, after the Roman numeral 10. This album is arguably the best Iron Maiden album of the 1990s.
Yeah. I just think it's the most polarizing album of the 90s, too.
It is the most polarizing album. One of the big reasons for that is because Bruce is no longer in the band, everybody. He's gone. Mm. Bruce leaves after a tour in support of Fear the Dark in 1993. So Iron Maiden suffers a loss with Bruce leaving. Also in 1993, Steve Harris goes through a divorce from his first wife, Lorraine Harris, who he has 4 children with at this time. They got married in 1983. He knew her since they were kids. I mean, like in his 20s. And they were only married for 10 years, had 4 kids, and he gets a divorce. Yeah. So that could also contribute to the fact of the past couple albums. They might have been having some difficulties for a couple of years. The past couple albums are pretty bad. Now, they get divorced in 1993, and Steve doesn't write this album. This doesn't come out until 1995. But I'm sure he's heartbroken. He has 4 kids. He's known her for 20 years, probably. So it takes
probably a reason why it might be a little darker than anything Maiden's ever wrote.
Exactly. Before. One of the reasons why it's darker, you're losing Bruce. You're getting divorced. You're losing. Yeah, we all know divorce is a painful subject to talk about. You're losing half the stuff you have. You know, it's
cut in half.
You're paying child support. You're doing whatever he has to do. It's tough.
I mean, and I think with Bruce leaving the band, I always think there's 3 things that kind of like make the sound of Iron Maiden. Like when you think of Iron Maiden, what it sounds like, and that's Dave Murray's guitar, Steve Harris's bass, and Bruce's vocals, and that's gone. So, like, if you don't have Bruce's vocals, it's not going to sound like Iron Maiden as we all know it to sound like. Period.
Exactly, and that's a good point. I think Davey, like Matt mentioned on earlier podcasts, is really monumental when coming to the sound. Adrian is too, and here's another thing, we're missing him too.
Yeah,
you're not going to have that progressive edge that Adrian brought. You're not going to have that classic Maiden sound that Davey brought, and you're also not going to have that progressive sound that Adrian brought. So, I mean,
I also think like Adrian brought kind of a classy sound too.
Yeah,
he knew how to make music sound good, and he brought the musicianship up. He's not there either. But like I said, like without Bruce, it doesn't sound like Maiden. So, I mean, you have to take the album for what it is. That. It's not going to sound like the Maiden we know or have come to know. It's going to be different.
Another thing about this album is this is the largest gap in between Maiden albums. You had No Prayer in 1990, which came after Seventh Son in 88. You had Fear the Dark in 1992, and now you have The X Factor in 1995. So a 3-year gap between Fear the Dark and X Factor, whereas the albums from Power Slave was 84 to 86, Somewhere in Time. Somewhere in Time was 86 to 88. Seventh Son, and like I said, No Prayer 90, Fear the Dark 92, this 95. So you got a 3-year gap here.
And back in the 80s and 90s, bands made their money from album sales. Like a lot of their money from album sales. So having a 3-year gap's like a pretty big gap. Nowadays, music is mostly made from touring. Or money you make from your music is from touring. So, like, Iron Maiden still tours without putting out new albums because they do history tours or they just do these, like, compilation tours. So, having a 3-year gap between albums is like a hit in your purse.
Now, one thing I want to say right off the bat here before we dive into the album and the tracks and stuff like that is Blaze Bayley, in my opinion, is the best singer Iron Maiden has had in the 1990s. We just talked about on previous podcasts, Fear the Dark and No Prayer for the Dying. You had Bruce fucking Dickinson, arguably one of the greatest heavy metal singers, if not the greatest of all time, and you churned out No Prayer for the Dying and Fear the Dark. 2, in my opinion, 2 of the worst albums they've ever done.
What a monumental waste of talent.
Wasting Bruce's talent, whether it was his creative output that was burned out or Steve's creative output or the differences or whatever. People don't give Blaze Bayley the credit he deserves. This is a good album. This is the best album in the 90s for a reason. Matt, you can kick it off, man. What do you have to say about Blaze?
I mean, like, he is a completely different vocalist than Bruce. And he has his own strengths. And he kind of has, like, his own weaknesses. Now, like, I kind of want to bring the decision up. Like, Steve was going to go out and pick a new singer. Now, were you going to go get a singer that kind of, like, emulated Bruce? Was you going to get a Bruce-like singer that can do the stuff Bruce did, even though he wasn't Bruce? Or are you going to go and just be like, we're not even going to try? to get another Bruce. We're going to go in a completely different direction. And that's what they chose. They went completely different direction. The complete 180 of what Bruce sounds like. Blaze is a deep voice. He can do more aggression in his voice better than Bruce could. What do you like about Blaze as a singer?
I mean, just what you said, man. The aggression's there. The tonality of this album, The X Factor, is very, very dark, and there's a lot of pain in this album, and the idea of loss is persistent throughout this album, in almost every song.
Steve seemed like he knew what he wanted to write, and he went and got Blaze to sing this album.
And that's one of the strengths. Like Steve did back when Paul Di'Anno was the singer for the first two albums.
Yeah.
He tailored his sound and the sound of Iron Maiden around Paul, and he kind of does that with Blaze here, too. Now, I will say this about Blaze. Blaze on the album is fantastic. But like Matt just said previously, I'm glad that they got Blaze. And I'm glad they didn't go out and they didn't get a singer who emulated Bruce.
Yeah.
Because Bruce may have never came back to the band in the reunion if they had somebody who sounded just like Bruce. Iron Maiden, as we know it, could be somebody completely different now. It could have been somebody who sounded just like Bruce who might have been on par with Bruce. Imagine it. This is just hypothetical. Imagine if they went and got somebody like Tim the Ripper Owens who did Judas Priest. And he was an Iron Maiden. Could you ever see Tim the Ripper Owens leaving Iron Maiden?
Yeah, that's kind of the only comparison I have is when Halford left Judas Priest, and they went out and they got a Halford replacement to sing just like Halford did. And Iron Maiden didn't do that. They went out and got Blaze. And I'll give Steve credit for that. You know, like we're going to do something different. We're not going to be complacent. We're not going to do the same thing over again. I mean, it's about as big a change as Iron Maiden and went through since they got rid of Paul and went to Bruce. Whether that change is like a good thing or a bad thing, people's opinion changes, and that's what I mean like about this album being very polarizing. There are Iron Maiden fans that won't listen to the X Factor or Virtual 11. They just won't. They don't consider it part of Iron Maiden's history.
It's on one of the DVDs too. I think might be on the Dance of Death DVD, Death on the Road. They're doing like behind the scenes interviews with some fans. And the fan says once they got a new singer, I was no longer interested in listening to Iron Maiden. Yeah. He listened to No Prayer. He listened to Fear, even though they weren't that great. He still listened to them because it was Bruce. But as soon as Blaze came on board, they were like, we're done. And I'll be honest, in terms of a live performance, this is on Steve's part too. I don't want to blame Blaze for this. This is a Steve Harris decision. You cannot make Blaze Bayley, with his style of vocal, sing The Trooper. There's a video if you guys look on YouTube. Type it in. Type in Blaze Bayley sings The Trooper, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah. He does not have the vocal range or talent to sing that song. Other songs, Afraid to Shoot Strangers, Heaven Can Wait, stuff that isn't really operatic sounding or has that real screamy, like, upper end, high end vocal. Blaze kills it. I mean, he does a really good job. Again, Bruce is better, but it fits his sound. And that's the reason why Blaze is only here for 2 albums. Because Iron Maiden is Bruce Dickinson. When he left,
yeah, like I said, he's one of those 3 pillars of the sound.
He's one of the 3 pillars, and arguably, really 4 pillars. Adrian Smith. Adrian Smith is Iron Maiden. Gone.
So now you're down to Steve and and Dave. That's it.
I mean, Nick is too, the drumming. The point is, we talked about this before. When Peace of Mind came out, this is another reason why Peace of Mind is such a... I hate to talk about the past albums. The reason why Peace of Mind is such a fucking monumental album that often gets overshadowed by Power Slave. We said this last time. Dougie, the sound guy, or the lighting guy for Iron Maiden, who's worked with them for years, said, this is the fucking lineup. Peace of Mind lineup is Nico McBrain, Bruce Dickinson, Steve Harris, Dave Murray, and Adrian Smith. That is Iron Maiden. That is Iron Maiden as they were to become. Now you don't have Bruce, you have Adrian. And you're left with a completely different vocal singer, like Matt said. You still have Davey. The musicianship in this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, we'll talk about this. This is a big step up from Fear the Dark, I think.
Absolutely. It's pretty good. But it is still, without Adrian there, you don't have that technicality. Without Bruce there, you don't have the vocal range. You don't have the...
Just the drive. Just the dude is just like a creative beast.
Another thing, I've been listening to this album for about a week now, just listening to the X Factor. In terms of words spoken that are actually enunciated on this album and actually sung, it's very minimal. This album is really a lot about music and atmosphere and instrumentation. There's not really too much vocal on it.
It might be the most atmospheric Maiden album there is.
Exactly. But it goes into that tone with the darkness and all that kind of stuff. So, another thing about this album is, it is the longest Iron Maiden album up to this point ever. Ever. It is 70 minutes and 54 seconds. The longest album they've done. And I think there's, 11 songs on this album? Fear the Dark was 12 songs, and it was 20 minutes less than this.
I don't want to think about Fear the Dark anymore.
So let's dive into the album, man. We talked
let's I think we're gonna both agree this album has like a lot more high points than Fear the Dark, and certainly No Prayer for the Dying.
Absolutely, like I said,
right out of the gate here, Sign of the Cross.
I mean,
way better than anything off of No Prayer.
This is one of the best Iron Maiden songs of all time, and I'm seriously saying that. It's not Bruce Dickinson, but it is still one of the best Iron Maiden songs of all time. The darkness on the riff is catchy in there. The atmosphere it sets is there. The musicianship is there. Yeah, the lyrics that Steve wrote are fucking incredible. Yeah, they haven't done something like this since Seventh Son. Since Seventh Son or Seventh Son? Yeah. This is also the second longest song up to this point they've ever done. It's 11 minutes and 18 seconds long behind Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Yeah. That's another reason why the album is 70 minutes, because of the song. And it does not disappoint. This song is fucking incredible. The instrumentation on this is amazing. The riff at the beginning has become one of my favorite things to play on bass or guitar. I mean, I love it. Just like the energy and the feeling that you get, like, right, in this song, when he starts actually singing, in the song after the intro, it sounds like passion and the energy you expect from Iron Maiden. And that's exactly why Steve made this the first song on the album. Because he said, you know what? Bruce is gone, but we got this new singer named Bayley. Check out this song called Sign of the Cross. Boom, and it opens up the album. It's the longest intro song I think they've ever done, too. It is. And it's an interesting choice for a first song on the album. I don't think they've done anything like this since either. Oh, no, they haven't. I mean, maybe if you're talking about If Eternity Should Fail and maybe Silent 15 more recently. Yeah, but they're not really epics. They're like intros. Yeah, exactly. Kind of to the album, and then they're a song after. They're not epics, you're right. Maybe Caught Somewhere in Time, the only thing like on this kind of like level of being like an epic long song. But like I said, I think the reason Steve did that was because he was like, here's Blaze. Yeah. Here's what he can do. Yeah. Check this out. And I love the song. I love Standing Alone in the Wind and Rain. I mean, I love it. The Sign of the Cross, The Name of the Rose. This is also a song about a book and a movie. If you guys haven't seen the movie, it's with Christian Slater and Sean Connery. They play monks in an abbey in the Middle Ages. I've never read the book, but the movie is really, really good. Fantastic. If you guys get a chance to watch the movie. Watch the movie. It's fantastic. Yeah. This is Maiden back at their love of literature and books and movies and stuff. This is them. So this is old Maiden. It doesn't have Adrian. Doesn't have Bruce, and it is a darker sounding Iron Maiden, but it is still that kind of the soul Iron Maiden that you expect. I'm not saying it's as good as the 80s stuff. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying that it's a step up from No Prayer and Fear. Love Sign of the Cross. Davey solo in the song. I mean, this is his best solo since, Moonchild. Yeah, like, it's way back there. It's like 2 albums since Dave's like busted out a solo this sweet. His solo in this is one of his best. I mean, like I just said. Yeah, it's probably his top 5 or 10. It's sick. That's saying something for Dave. What about Lord of the Flies? I mean, another song about literature. I mean, we're going back. Now we're going back to Iron Maiden's roots, and this is their bread and butter. Another song that really fits Blaze to a T here. Absolutely. And, I mean, the lyrics, another song that, the lyrics are just really great. I mean, in Sign of the Cross, I love that line. Like, they'll be saying their prayers when the moment comes. There'll be penance to pay on their judgment day. And, and Lord of the Flies is, the same way. Steve got he got his mojo back. I don't know how else to put it, Yeah, man, I agree with you. The book, Lord of the Flies, if you guys never read it, it was mandatory for us to read when we were in elementary school, and I think junior high school. No, it was, I read it in the 11th grade. I read it when I was a kid, too. It's a little perturbing. A little edgy for kids to read. And it fits the album perfectly, with that dark tone. I mean, it's about these kids who kind of They get stranded on this island. They have to survive.
Don't care for this world anymore.
They have to survive and they end up like killing each other. It's crazy.
I just want to live my own fantasy.
But if you guys check it out, it came out in the 50s. It was a book that was published in the 50s. It was actually published on my birthday, September 17th.
Yeah, like these lyrics, like, I found that I like this living in danger, living on edge. It makes feel as one. Who cares now what's right or wrong? It's reality. I mean, like, we did the past 2 albums, like, those albums were, like, childish compared to, like, the lyrics that we're getting now.
Lord of the Flies is...
I mean, we got, like...
amazing.
Yeah, we got these, like, ballads and, No Prayer. Was before these, like, trying to be funny or something, but it wasn't funny. It was just sad. I know people out there might be listening to this and they don't like the X Factor. They think it's the worst album Iron Maiden has done, and you probably only listened to it, like, one time, and you didn't like Blaze. Like, give it another chance.
Give it another chance. Another thing about this, like we said, the production on this is better. The lyrics are better. The themes are better. The solo in the song, I think it's Davy's solo again. Incredible. It's a great solo.
I mean, I will say this about both Sign of the Cross and Lord of the Flies is that when, I know we're talking about the album, but when Bruce sings these songs live and they're done in the live setting with the modern band, they're even taken to, like, another level. They become really, really good songs.
And that goes, me and Matt were talking about this earlier. There are songs in the 90s we just talked about, like what Matt said, is there anything from the 90s you would want to hear off of No Prayer for the Dying? And I said, no, absolutely nothing. And that's true. Even though that was with Bruce, there's nothing on there that I'd care to hear about. And with this stuff, I would love to hear Sign of the Cross. They're playing Sign of the Cross now on the Legacy of the Beast tour. I mean, they played Lord of the Flies back when they toured with the Dance of Death album. It's great stuff. It's a good song in its own right. I mean, I could hear this song being sung by Paul Di'Anno, I could hear it being sung by Dickinson, and I could hear it being sung by Blaze, and it would still be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd still love it.
Saints and sinners, something within us. We are Lord of the Flies.
Saints and sinners.
I mean, song we've never heard anything off of the X Factor live. Like us seeing them in concert live, and hopefully, you know, when they come around with the Legacy of the Beast tour, we get to hear, you know, Sign of the Cross live, because just watching the YouTube videos of it, I mean, looks awesome. They, like, gave it the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, Seventh Son of the Seventh Son treatment live. Like, they're, like, fireworks and everything. That'd be really sweet to hear live. Lord of the Flies is another one I wish someday that I could hear live. I'd like to experience it live, hearing Bruce really give it his treatment.
And it's definitely well deserving of the fireworks and the effects, because, like we said, this is probably the best album of the 90s for a reason. I mean, it's not Bruce, but it's when Steve realizes, hey, I gotta do something here. We gotta do something.
Yeah, like, outside of the song Fear of the Dark, you listen to these other songs live that they played off of these, like, 4 albums, and Sign of the Cross and Lord of the Flies are the 2 best songs that they play from the 90s live.
Absolutely. No question about it. No question about it. Better than Fear of the Dark. The album.
I would say it's up there with Fear of the Dark. Those 3 songs are the best songs they played live.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here even further and say the Sign of the Cross is better than Fear of the Dark.
I'd agree with you. Like, just especially seeing the new lot, like, the effort they put into it now live with, like, the cross and the fireworks and the energy the band has when they play this song live. It seems like it gave it new life. Like, I know it's, like, the same song, but it seems like they've really, like, breathed some new life into it.
What about Man on the Edge?
Based on another movie. Look at this, like, three songs in a row based on literature and movies.
Movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas.
Yeah, I mean, we actually watched this movie together.
10 years ago.
Yeah, probably 10 years ago. I don't know if I was inspired. I guess I was kind of inspired by Iron Maiden to watch this movie, but I thought it was, like, an interesting movie anyway. It's about a guy who's, like, he just, like, had enough. Like, he has that blue-collar, 9-to-5 job. He's on the highway every day. You know, he's in, like, traffic, going to work, coming home from work. I think he was divorced from his wife. He had a kid. It was her birthday. He's just trying to get her a birthday present. You know, it's about a guy who just finally had enough.
And he just snaps and goes ballistic. It's a good flick if you get to check it out.
And, like, the interesting thing about, like, the movie and the song is, like, he's not a bad guy. Like, he used to build missiles for the government. And, you know, I think the point of the song is, like, a normal, average man what's his breaking point? What is the point that a normal person will break? And that's kind of what the movie's about and the song's about. And
it's a great song.
I mean,
it's good. I think
it's a good song. I don't know about great.
Some of it's a little like the way
it's cheesy. Like the line, now he can't even give birthday presents. I mean, it's hard to keep a straight face when you hear that line.
A briefcase of lunch and a man on the edge. Yeah. But it fits a movie.
I mean, it does. Each step he's closer to losing his head. Is someone in heaven? Are they looking down? Nothing is fear. You look around.
You look around, falling down.
I mean, it's almost like a nihilistic thing. Like, what are we as a modern society? Like, what is there? I mean, this is it. This is you work 9 to 5. You drive back and forth, go on the hot highway every day when it's like 100 degrees, and is this it? I mean, it's kind of a man is just at the end of his rope,
Absolutely. I mean, it's exactly what it is. I mean,
so that's it. Yeah, pretty much it.
What about the next song, Fortunes of War?
Fortunes of War. I think this is like the song that kind of epitomizes the album. It's kind of dark. It has a dark subject matter. I mean, they almost took we were talking about this earlier, that they took Afraid to Shoot Strangers. That was kind of the primer for all this album. It sounds like this album was based off of that sound they found in Afraid to Shoot Strangers.
Yeah, I love Fortunes of War. Like Matt said, I think it really sums up the album. It's catchy as hell. I mean, it really, really is super catchy. I mean, me and him were just singing it.
It was one of the songs we listened to today. It was and now we can't get over it.
I mean, and the lyrics are really, really good. I know that, the only thing about it that I would have to gripe about was maybe the chorus is a little, excessive.
But that's kind of like a staple of Steve here late, I like this at the end is sometimes I wake, I feel that my spirit's broken, I wonder if I have the strength to carry on. I wonder if that's the song, or is that Steve talking there?
Yeah, about his divorce and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, is this Steve's obviously at a dark place and time in his life? Is that the song, or is that Steve?
Yeah, and I think it goes back into sort of what you said about falling down too. It's what are we doing in this society? Because there's a line in there too that says, "I am living in my own world and I'm feeling trance-like all the time." He's stuck in some kind of trance.
Yeah, even look at Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies is a social commentary.
Exactly.
And then you got Manly Edge, obviously a social commentary. Now you got Fortunes of War, another social commentary. And so that's 3 in a row here that are basically about the same thing, humanity. And it's about humanity's darker side. There's nothing positive.
Even about Silent Cross.
Yeah.
Sins, wash my sins away.
Yeah, I mean, that's more of a religious commentary. So you're seeing Steve, he's not glorifying war anymore. He's not, this isn't, the trooper. This isn't Run to the Hills. We're not chasing the Indians down. This is serious stuff. And you can tell Steve's a little depressed.
Look for the truth.
Not one of my favorite songs. I think it's one of the weaker ones on the album, for sure.
The thing I do want to say about this album, too, is yes, it does have a dark tone, and yes, it does have the... we mentioned this earlier, and I hate to say this about Iron Maiden. When we talk about some bands that have, this kind of samey-sounding stuff, like AC/DC.
Yeah.
Part of this album has that kind of stuff on it. Look for the Truth and Fortunes of War sound almost identical in some parts.
If we just catch a song in the middle for 5 or 10 seconds, it might take you a little bit to figure out which one it is.
And that's a lot to say with the following songs, too. Some of the following songs also have a similar vibe.
I mean, you could say about Sign of the Cross, Lord of the Flies, and Man on the Edge, that they sound different. They sound like completely different songs than anything anybody they ever written. Yeah, they have their own character. These songs are kind of you're getting in the middle of the album, you're kind of getting into your meat of the album here, and it's kind of you kind of same-ish. But that comes from the fact that you have Steve Harris, who's the only true musical creative force really left in the band. Blaze writes some stuff because he's a musician. That's his career. He writes stuff. That's his profession. So he's not gonna not write stuff. But they're not Blaze is by no means one of the greatest musicians in metal history by far, but and Janik's really not there yet. He doesn't really come into his own until the reunion. Dave hasn't really been a big creative force in the band.
Until the reunion.
Yeah, and his writing is still probably like one of the least in the band. He's a guitar player. He plays guitar. That's what he does. He's not a writer really by nature. Yeah, you're going to get the same stuff. Steve's in the mindset. He's in this kind of like depressing mindset. So yeah, you're going to get all these songs that sound similar.
Yeah, I agree. And on another note, those two kind of sound similar, Fortunes of War and Look for the Truth, but then the Aftermath has kind of a little, there's a little bit of sameness in there, but I think lyrically and the way it's organized, like melodically and stuff, it has its own little sound. Like when the way Blink sings it, like, he's silently to silence, falls like that driving sound in the field of futile war, a little differently,
You could like almost like see like Blaze like pumping his arm when he's singing this song in the studio.
Yeah,
the way he does live.
But like, the lyrics on this are actually really good. I love the lines like, war horse and war machine, curse the name of liberty. Like, I like that,
Yeah.
And then in the chorus part, it's, in the mud and rain, what are we fighting for? Is it worth the pain? Is it worth dying for? That part.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
It is different than, I would say it's a step up from, Look for the Truth, but it still doesn't do it for me the way that Lord of the Flies and even Man on the Edge did. I don't want to say this album is, I'm not going to say this album's bad because I don't believe that, but this isn't classic Maiden. You're not going to get hit after hit after hit after hit. You're not going to go down through and be like, I love every song on this.
And the stuff on this, like we talked about with Afraid to See Strangers, you mentioned that earlier with the Fear of the Dark mentality, with this kind of, that song, that sound, that's kind of what Steve was trying to find, and he did it, and he really put a lot of that into this album. Even the lines in this, like, after the war, the feeling no one has won, and then Blaze is saying it, after the war, what does a soldier become? It's really powerful shit.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of that Afraid to Shoot Strangers attitude here that they're going for. This is like, I guess it's kind of like what World War I theme. During World War I, nobody won that war. Mm. I think you only lost, like, it's just how much you lost. And Germany lost, like, the most, and Russia lost a lot, because then they went to communism, and Great Britain lost, after this, they went downhill with their empire. They pretty much lost everything. And then they finally lost everything after World War II. The only country that really benefited from World War I was probably the United States. They're the only country that never... Italy went into political chaos. Mm-hmm. Spain went into political chaos. Mm-hmm. France went into, like, on the verge of political chaos. Like, they became, like, this super weak after World War I. As I said, like, it's kind of like this war, and then you talk about the people, like, it was millions and millions of people, and they died for nothing, and their countries became worse off.
What are we fighting for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were worse off afterwards. So,
absolutely.
Like,
I want to echo everything you said there. It's, like, exactly what I was thinking, so.
I like it. I like it more than some of the other songs on the album.
Speaking of that, what about Judgment of Heaven? Yeah, you gotta kind of sigh there for a second, because it's one of those samey songs, and honestly, I think the Aftermath is a little bit better than Judgment of Heaven.
Yeah, I would have to probably agree with you there. I think one of the downsides to doing a thematic album, which I wouldn't call it a concept album, I'd call it like a thematic album, is that you kind of box yourself in with what you write about. Now, like previously, like when you do like Number of the Beast, man, you just write about whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're feeling, you just write. And with this, like you can't come out and write some happy song, Exactly. Like, you can't come out and write, Flash of the Blade or, like one of those songs,
absolutely.
Like you have to write thematically.
Like you said, it's a perfect fit for this kind of album, though. If we were to take this and take it out of the scope of Maiden, this might be an amazing metal record, but the fact that we don't do that, we're reviewing this...
We have to judge it by Maiden. We know what came before. We have to...
That's why it suffers a little bit.
It does, yeah.
And, kudos to Blaze, though, for really bringing this distinct and different sound. And that's what Steve wanted. Steve wanted something different. He's going through a divorce. He wants you to feel his pain. He wants you to understand the darkness.
You got, like, another song with kind of this, like, nihilistic feeling. Like, what is the meaning of everything? It's like every song on this album is like, what does it mean? What does everything mean? And it's kind of like, in a way, it's, like, a little disturbing because, like, Steve is this guy that's, like, he is quiet. He's an introvert guy, but, like, if you look at, like, some of his more philosophical songs before this, like, yeah, he questions stuff, but it's in a different light. It's like, it's more of a curiosity, like, what is, like in Infinite Dreams, he lays awake at night and he wonders, like, there's gotta be more to this, than, gotta be more of this than this, like, why do we exist? I like to think when we die, we move on. And now he's writing songs like, questioning your beliefs and questioning yourself, and there is nothing, and what does it all mean?
It's partially
you're in Steve's head, like
it's part of the divorce. I mean, that has to be, and Bruce leaving the band. He's like, my whole life is Iron Maiden. Bruce
it is
gone.
Falling apart. Like Iron Maiden just fell apart,
and the fact that's a great thing too, because you said they're falling apart, right? If you look at the album cover, which we'll talk about later, you can really see that with the cover. We'll talk about falling apart and that kind of stuff. Blood on the World's Hands.
A song I wish they would play live with Bruce nowadays. I think it would really, work. And it's one of those songs that has Steve comes out with that great bass intro solo.
Amazing. I love Blood on the World's Hands. It really touches on the entirety of the album, that darkness, the idea of what are we fighting for again, like the aftermath.
I think out of every Iron Maiden song, I think this song's the most underrated by the general Iron Maiden fan. I think a lot of people don't even know. I think a lot of Iron Maiden fans don't know the song, or they don't listen to it, or whatever. They never gave it a chance. I think it's a really underrated Iron Maiden song.
I do too. I love it. And really, the X Factor is really, we talked about it before, is really underrated.
Probably, yeah. I think it has to be the most underrated Iron Maiden album, period. I mean, just by its nature.
Because it's not Bruce, everybody shuns it. But it's
like, if you asked Iron Maiden fans what their least favorite Iron Maiden albums are, and you gave them like a list, they would be like Virtual Eleven, The X Factor. Yeah. And they wouldn't even give a reason. They'd just be like, Blaze,
It's true, you're right. I don't think he gets the credit deserved. And I want to kind of touch on here in a second when we finish the album about some things that you mentioned previously. You know what? I'm going to touch on it now. What you had talked about with this album and the fact they are falling apart, and the fact that all this stuff is happening. You don't have Bruce anymore. You don't have Adrian. And you said Steve is starting to question things now. He's really kind of looking at things in a negative kind of light, You cannot, as much as this album is negative, you have to view it as a stepping stone. Because look at what they do after the reunion. The reunion is basically a melding of the stuff they did in the 80s with Steve's ideas of the 90s. And a prime example of that is, I think I texted you about it yesterday. You said, I really wish they would have recorded the X Factor with Bruce. It would have been a lot better. Which is true. I mean, there's no argument there. He's a fantastic singer. War and religion are huge themes in this album. A Matter of Life and Death, arguably the best album since the reunion, is what it would have been with Bruce. I mean, it's...
Yeah, you wouldn't have that dark feeling that Blaze gives with his vocals.
You would still have that darkness, and you would still have that, but it would be nowhere near as depressing. It'd be more enjoyable to a certain extent.
And this song is definitely like... This song's like we just said, like the past three songs kind of sound similar, kind of same-ish. This is one that does not sound like this has its own character to it. It's its own entity.
Yeah, I think on this album there's 4 gems on this album, and those 4 hidden gems, because people gloss over it, are Sign of the Cross, Lord of the Flies, Man of the Edge, and Blood of the World's Hands. Those 4 songs in particular are unique sounding, they're very diverse, and because they're not Bruce Dickinson on vocals, they often get cast asunder, but the reality is they're pretty damn good songs in their own right.
I like Nico's drumming on this one too during the chorus.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
It's really strong drumming from Nico.
Blood on the world's hands. Another thing I like about the song is the end lyric where he says, "Someone should know. Blood on the world's hands. Someone should." And it just ends.
Yeah, it's kind of like the most unique way I think an Iron Maiden song's ever ended.
And I think what Steve meant by that was someone should stop.
Right, he just stops.
And he just stops, It's really cool. I mean, I love that part of the song. What about The Edge of Darkness?
Yeah, based on, the movie Apocalypse Now.
Marlon Brando.
Yeah, another,
and Michael Douglas.
Yeah, I mean, this is this is like another like super super dark subject matter. I mean, if you've ever watched Apocalypse Now, I mean it's a mind trip if you watch it from start to finish. I mean, it is.
It's a hell of a movie.
And the funny thing about it is a lot of Vietnam vets will say it is the most like Vietnam out of any movie that's ever been made. And that's like, if you watch this movie, that is a scary, scary thought, because this movie is just a psychological trip. And I think I probably like the song a little more than it might deserve because of that, because I really like the movie.
I'm with you though, man. I mean, it's the same for me. It's hard not to separate them. I mean, we might have that kind of... We talk about it in earlier episodes, podcasts we've done, where we have that historical connection. I mean, we're historians, so it's hard for us to... We love Apocalypse Now, and Iron Maiden's our favorite band.
It means more to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just, it has to.
I mean, I know I talk about Alexander the Great, but I wrote a paper before I wrote that thesis on Alexander the Great about Hal Moore. I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. It's about Vietnam. It's about flying Huey helicopters to the Yadrang Valley, and they get decimated by Viet Cong. And I love Vietnam. I studied Vietnam. I love it. And Apocalypse Now, in my opinion, is probably, like Matt said, the best Vietnam War movie ever. Full Metal Jacket's a great flick. I love it.
It's not really about Vietnam.
It's more about the boot camp, and there's a humor there, and really just psychological stuff.
Yeah.
About going to boot camp and becoming a soldier is what that's more about.
Yeah, the only other really great Vietnam flick I think is Platoon.
Platoon's great too. I love it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Vietnam movies. But I think Apocalypse Now, like in terms of just movies, is probably the best.
Yeah,
movie.
Yeah, not even if it wasn't about Vietnam, just the movie in general is fantastic.
Yeah, I always like the line like, and now I understand why the genius must die.
I love that one too. And who was the director? Is this Francis Ford Coppola?
Yeah, same guy that did The Godfather. He did 2 like all time. Well, 3 if you include Godfather 2, I guess. 3 all time classic movies.
Yeah, Coppola's a fantastic director.
I mean, and you like, I don't want to get like off track too much with it because we're talking about Iron Maiden, but if you watch like the movie, like it is a visual masterpiece that you don't get. You know, in those scenes when there's helicopters flying around to Flight of the Valkyries, I mean, it's just like, wow. I don't really think the song even does the movie justice, really. I mean,
it's just cool to be about the movie.
Yeah, it adds a little extra to the song.
I like the part where he says he's acting like a god, an insane lunatic. That's pretty much like Marlon Brando right there, his character.
Like I think Blaze actually does like a pretty good song with the lyrics in this one.
Yeah, I do too. It's probably not one of the greatest songs on the album. Like we said, we kind of like it more than it probably deserves, but we like it. It's definitely better than anything on Fear of the Dark or No Prayer.
I mean, like if you look at like the average No Prayer song and you look at the average Fear of the Dark song, and this is like an average X Factor song, and it's like way better than that.
Absolutely. What about 2 a.m.?
Yeah, you texted me the other day saying like you finally understood this song. What do you mean by that, Jay?
What I mean by it is it almost has that kind of vibe like Falling Down has. You get home from work, you're sitting around, you know.
Yeah.
You wonder why you're existing. Like, what's the point of being alive? Like, what is it about? But in a very, like Matt said earlier, Matt was just, quoting Infinite Dreams lyrics earlier in this podcast about why do we exist. And it was more of a wonderous, like, curiosity, like Matt said. This is like, why do we exist? Because we're all just going to die anyway. It's like this really negative, nihilistic approach.
I'm kind of like going through these songs. I don't know. Like, it's kind of hard to like, we listened to the album, right? You don't like listen to every word. You don't follow along. Like, you're not like analyzing the lyrics as you listen. You just listen to it because it's music and like you do like some lyrics, but it's hard to like just sit here over and over again and analyze these lyrics. I mean, like, it's depressing.
It is. I mean, the one line here, it's only 4 words. Life seems so pathetic. I mean,
I wish I could leave it all behind.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That right there is like,
this is bad.
Wow, Steve is really in a bad place here. But that's what he wanted. And Blaze, I gotta say, Blaze delivers it really well. He does.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say he doesn't. I mean, saying that all nice about this song, like, it's not like one of the best. It's pretty weak.
Not one of the best songs in the album. The writing of the lyrics are good, but the way the song's constructed, much like Invaders, like
it's just kind of sameish.
It's sameish. Invaders had really good lyrics, they had really good subject matter, but the song sounded samey and it wasn't very like uplifting. It wasn't really catchy. That's kind of what 2 a.m.'s like. But you understand it when you read it. If you read the lyrics and you listen to it, you understand where Steve's coming from. You can feel his pain in some of those lyrics. What about the last song on the album, The Unbeliever?
The big epic of this album?
Yeah.
Or the second one? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the song, honestly.
Yeah, it's one of the weaker songs on the album for me, too. Again, the title was called The Unbeliever. Now Steve's like, I don't even believe anymore. First I was like wondering, now I don't even care. I don't believe anything.
I mean, looking at the lyrics, it's like saying Steve's angry, he's depressed, he's questioning everything, it's hard not to look at this as Steve.
Absolutely.
Reading these lyrics to Steve, and I don't want to, assume stuff about somebody or anything, but it's hard not to, because these lyrics are kind of, personal, and they're all about the same thing, so it's kind of hard not to, just assume that Steve's, really, really, really depressed.
The one line that really sticks in me in that part is when he says, all my life I've run astray. Then the last line is, all out my faith to drift away. No more faith in anything. Doesn't have faith in himself.
Yeah.
Doesn't have faith in Iron Maiden anymore, to a certain extent.
Probably.
Or at least he's trying to cope with that by making this album and saying, you know what, if I can't talk about what I want... I will say this, though. The authenticity of the band, Rod Smallwood, thank you. The authenticity of the band, if Rod would have not let Steve create this piece of music, this CD, and get his anger and his depression and all his sadness out, who knows what would happen? Who knows what would happen? This shit here is pretty deep. All my faith is gone.
Yeah, Rod, he never got involved in Iron Maiden's creative process. He just said, my job is to, with the framework that the band's given me, their roles, their standards, I'm going to make this band as popular as I can, as successful as I can. And, Steve was always in charge of the creative process in the band 100%. Nobody else told Steve what to do. Nobody else moved Steve from his idea. And he kind of missed the mark the past 2 albums. And this one, though it's not classic Maiden, though it's kind of really depressing and sad, it is a better album than what has come before.
And I think that is a touchstone of what we talked about before. Remember when we talked about No Prayer and Fear, we said these songs have no emotion.
Yeah.
Even though this is a negative emotion, there's still emotion.
Yeah, at least it's something.
Yeah, it's better than not having a flat, the Fear of the Dark album version is 1,000 times weaker than this stuff. And it's
you're not making joke songs
and like you said earlier when we did Fear of the Dark, it was like you're throwing darts at a dartboard just to see if one hits. We'll try this out, see what it sounds like. This is I have 11 songs that I have in mind, and we're writing every one of them, and we're going to play all of them, and they all mean something to me.
They do. That is the thing. Every song on this album has meaning. You're not getting, The Assassin on this album, this stuff, or Weekend Warrior. This stuff means something. Every one of these songs meant something.
Absolutely. It's either about war, religion, or personal struggle. And
all at once.
All at once, exactly. It's all there. I'm not saying it's a perfect album, nowhere near as good as the stuff in the 80s. I'm not going to say that is that, but you have to give it... It's not Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah, you have to look at it that way.
This is one of the best Iron Maiden albums. It's often overlooked. It isn't really Iron Maiden.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think it's the most underrated Iron Maiden album, period.
Yeah. And part of that you don't think it sounds like Iron Maiden is because Steve's cashing in on Blaze, and he wants to do a 180. He doesn't want the same stuff he did before. Because in his head, he's so depressed, he's thinking, what did that shit get me in the first place? What did the stuff from the 80s get me anyway? My wife still left me.
He's questioning everything. I thought if I was successful, and he had everything in the world, he was the head of the most popular metal band in the world, and
she still left.
He doesn't have anything now.
She still left him. Bruce still left him. So what? What is he? What is he?
It's hard to answer that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna lose your faith. If that happened to me, I'd probably be in the same boat. And kudos to him for carrying on and actually, writing about it and making a creative piece of work with it. Some people might off themselves.
Yeah. I like reading these lyrics. I'm glad Steve's still with us, man. He pulled through, and anybody out there, you know what? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You'll get the Brave New World eventually.
All right, let's talk about the album cover. And I kind of want to touch on what I said earlier. I said I was going to talk about it. What do you think?
Personally, I don't like it as much as you do. I think I don't really like the claymation feel of it.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely the least like Iron Maiden album that I think they've probably ever made, besides maybe Dance of Death. But that being said, we were kind of like analyzing what it meant here, and like we were saying, like Eddie's being re-lobotomized, and that's kind of like Steve remaking Maiden.
And if you look at the picture, the torso and stuff of Eddie is like the Seventh Son body floating on the cover. Also, another thing I want to talk about, this is what I was getting hit on about the cover. Eddie is in this, like on this surgical table. There's like a bunch of knives and like pins and needles and stuff, and just like this device is like, it's called vivisection. Basically cutting him, experimenting on him while he's still alive. And that fits the album perfectly. You're in so much pain. Can you imagine laying there, being experimented on, getting stabbed by a bunch of stuff, getting stabbed by needles and being experimented on? That's what Steve feels like. Steve feels like his life. He's Eddie. This is Steve on the cover. This is Steve being vivisected, lobotomized, and having his guts ripped out, as you can see in the bottom, because of his divorce and the pain he's feeling. This is exactly what that means, that cover. And this is not Melvin Grant again. This is Hugh Syme. He did a lot of stuff with Rush. He did some stuff with Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction, Rush, Dress of Steel.
Yeah, it's the classic Megadeth cover.
Classic Megadeth cover, classic Rush cover. Yeah. This might not be one of his strongest works, but it's what Steve wanted, and it fits the concept of the X Factor. Better than a No Prayer for the Dying cover.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not the worst Iron Maiden cover, but I wouldn't include it in the good covers either, personally.
And on the back of the cover, Eddie it's like he's in this abandoned, I guess, construction tower, and there's like an X in the back with two steel beams, and he's in an electric chair. I think he's in an electric chair.
Yeah. In the back. I mean, that's pretty dark stuff. Absolutely. I mean, even like the cover is pretty graphic. It fits the album.
What about the single cover? I mean, the singles and stuff are pretty similar. The Man on the Edge cover is basically just a side view of Eddie on that machine being lobotomized.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that one at all. I think it's one of the weakest ones that Iron Maiden's ever done, personally.
Yeah, it's okay. Lord of the Flies is basically the same, the back of the X Factor sleeve, but instead of just Eddie in a chair, it's Eddie in a throne, and he's wearing like a crown, and he has like a garb on, and there's two big gigantic flies beside him on either side.
I like that one a little better.
Yeah, I like it better too.
I think that one's a little bit more like classic Maiden. That's what, like, obviously, like, we're Maiden fans. That's what we like. But
absolutely,
I do. I think it's actually like, I think I like it better than the actual album cover, personally.
Yeah, I think that's right for me. I think they're about the same for me.
Yeah, I understand the album cover and the significance and the meaning of it.
Yeah,
like that means more than like the actual like aesthetics of the art.
What about production?
Better than probably Fear the Dark. I think it's like an improvement, but it's certainly not Martin Birch quality or quality 80s quality sounding. Yeah. I mean, the guitars are a little thin for my taste. I like guitars. I like them edgy and like fuller sounding.
Yeah, same here.
I understand what Steve was going for, though. He was taking a leap, and he was going for that dark, gloomy atmosphere, and he wanted the music to breathe. He wanted it to have that feeling to it, and I guess it does, but I don't like it as much.
Another thing about this is, we talked about it with No Prayer and Fear the Dark. This is still in Barnyard Studios, that barn that Steve converted.
Yeah, it sounds like it was made in a barn.
Exactly. And this is actually, Steve Harris is pretty much the sole producer, and then he has somebody named Nigel Green, who's also a co-producer, come in and help him out. No more Martin Birch. So, honestly, give Steve credit for that. He's producing this on his own, without Martin Birch, and Martin Birch produced Fear the Dark with Steve Harris on it, and then before that, it was just Martin Birch producing No Prayer for the Dying. So, give Steve some credit. This is the best album of the 90s, and he's doing this by himself. And he's going through so much shit right now. Give the man some credit. Listenability.
We gave, like, we said about Fear the Dark that it was kind of like almost 50-50, hit or miss, probably a little less than 50-50. This is, like, probably right at 50-50 or a little better.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, what you're going to listen to. Probably better, I'd say, like thinking about it. It's probably a little better.
I think it's a little better, too.
And I think this is, like, an album that, if you're in the mood for it, you could probably listen to it straight through. So, I mean, listenability is probably more positive, I think.
Yeah, I'm just looking at you said that, I can sit here and I can listen to Silent Cross, Lord of the Flies, Man on the Edge, Fortunes of War. I may skip Look for the Truth. I'm going to listen to The Aftermath. I'm going to listen to Blood in the World's Hands. I'm going to listen to The Edge of Darkness. Every time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 11 songs. Ain't bad.
Yeah, I said it's a little more on the positive side, where Fear the Dark is a little less than average, just a little bit more than average.
So as far as the rating is concerned, with Blaze, the new singer...
Oh, and this is without a doubt the hardest song, I think, or the hardest album I've had to grade.
I think it's probably one of mine, too.
Like, I'm trying to rack in my brain here thinking about, like, what I've rated the other albums. I think the lowest I've given anything besides Fear the Dark and No Prayer was Killers, and I gave that a 7.
I have my number in my head.
Yeah, I got my number. I think my number is a 7.5.
I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10.
I think it's the first album I've rated higher than you.
I think it is too.
My scale's usually a little harsher than Joe's, but like going through these and thinking about it, and I like this album more than I like Killers. So that being said, I have to give it a higher score than Killers. I'm keeping it like my system,
and that's fair. And I see my thing is I like this album a little bit less than I like Killers. Yeah. I like you said earlier, I like Paul Di'Anno more than you do.
Yeah, but this is definitely like on that. I mean, that's saying something. Like, this is on the Killers level.
7 out of 10. Yeah. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, just sitting there looking, like we said, when I said listenability, you know, and I just went through the list of those songs and the ones I would listen to. 7 out of 11.
Yeah.
It's pretty damn good for not having Bruce Dickinson on an album. I mean, I would listen to 7 songs off of X Factor. No Prayer, I'd probably skip everything except 2 or 3 songs. Fear the Dark, I'm skipping everything except 3 or 4 songs. So
I could see how this could be like somebody out there, like an Iron Maiden fan's favorite album. I can see it, and
rightfully so. No, I have the utmost respect for Blaze Bayley. I do not chastise the man. He is a prominent force in metal. I give him credit for going out there and doing the solo stuff he did, the stuff he did with Wolfsbane, all that stuff that he's done. And he went through personal struggles in his life. I think his wife died of a brain tumor or something like that.
Yeah, that's sad.
I mean, pretty depressing stuff. He knows what it's like to struggle. He knows exactly what it's like. So, Blaze, if you're out there listening, man, you are the man. You know, this album kicks ass.
Well, like I'll say, as an Iron Maiden fan, I appreciated you on the X Factor and Virtual 11. You did a good job. You did a great job.
Nobody can fill Bruce Dickinson's shoes, but you know what? You're part of the history, man. So kudos to you.
He's part of the Iron Maiden family, you know, just Absolutely. Like we all are. We're all part of the family, and so is Bliss.
Absolutely. And to have that opportunity to sing with the band, man, and work with Steve and the guys and all that stuff, I mean, absolutely fantastic.
That's been a dream come true.
But we'll get into more of that later when we talk about Virtual 11 on the next podcast. Honestly, for me, Virtual 11 has moved up in my rating of albums in these past couple months.
I've grown to appreciate it.
I've grown to like it a lot more than I thought. In particular, because of those 2 albums with Bruce that were just lackluster in the 90s. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. If you haven't listened to the X Factor, please give it a listen and support the album. I know many fans out there aren't really into it, but if you're going to go see the Legacy of the Beast tour in your area whenever Maiden comes around, they're playing Sign of the Cross. And check it out. You know, see what the album sounds like in comparison to the live version.
Go on YouTube and watch a video of Sign of the Cross the way the band does it now. It's amazing.
And you have to give the credit from the album they came from, and that's the X Factor in 1995. Yeah. So check it out. As always, guys, we really appreciate you listening. Please follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. A Matter of Life and Maiden. We need you guys out there. We appreciate you listening, and we'd like some comments. So check us out. As always, guys, it's been a pleasure. It's been A Matter of Life and Maiden, the podcast of the Beast. I'm Joe Labrula.
I'm Matt Wagner.
Next time, we're going to talk about the 1998 album, Virtual 11. The last album to feature Blaze Bayley, and then after that we get into the resurgence, the Renaissance period of Iron Maiden.
Good stuff there.
Where we're really excited to talk about this.
Yeah,
stuff.
We're huge modern reunion Maiden fans.
So get excited. Adrian's coming back, and Bruce is coming back, and Janik stays. So we got a 6-piece now.
Yeah, we got one more to go.
And now I'm gonna quote Dougie, the sound technician guy from the 80s, and say, "Now this is the fucking lineup, the 6-piece band." Get excited. We'll see you guys next time.